Alright guys, welcome back to the video. So what we're going to be doing today is working on another small project. As you can see, I still have the king size bed in the background there, so I can't really get into doing anything in the shop here because I don't want to make too much dust, and I actually can't get access to my lumber pile there because I've got the workbench in this awkward location that is in the way. So what I want to work on today is making a laminated axe handle. Now, there's a few different ways you can go about making an axe handle. One way is to take a solid piece of like hickory or white ash and just make your handle that way. Another way is to make a laminated handle. So you take multiple pieces of wood, glue them all together, and that is supposed to make up for a lot of the strength difference of your different woods in that. And you can actually get a pretty interesting handle out of it. And so what we're gonna be doing today is I know that I have a few small pieces of hickory up in my storage area up top there that I'm gonna dig out, and then we're gonna take that, combine it with some walnut, and hopefully make ourselves up a nice laminated blank that we can then turn into a handle. So my idea here is I wanna take a piece of hickory, split it in half, and then glue a piece of walnut down the middle so we end up with a nice little walnut accent stripe running down the middle of the handle there. I think that'll look really simple and really cool. Now you might be wondering, well, if I'm making an axe handle, I kind of need an axe head to go along with it. And that is where my little collection right here comes in. So for a few summers, I worked out at this youth camp, and one of the things that I got in the habit of doing every summer when I got out there is double checking things for just safety purposes. Because every summer when I would show up and I would check these axes, I would find stuff that looked like this. So you can see how that handle is no longer actually fully seated into that axe head. In fact, when the handle was on here, it was actually on its way out. So obviously, being a logical human being, this is not something that you would think to give to a younger person. We're talking like 16 to 18-year-old people, you know, not like little kids, but like you, young adult. But the funny thing is this is actually the head that made me, start doing this, because I pulled this axe out of a bucket that was meant to be going out to a group of kids. So obviously the people I was working with at the time were not paying enough attention to realize that some of these axes had major issues. So I got in the habit of anytime I saw an axe that had an issue like that, so anytime I saw an axe that was in bad condition, the handle was starting to fall out, or there was some kind of dangerous thing happening with the handle, I would just cut it off. So these were all gonna end up in the dumpster anyway, so I put them in the bed of my truck and took them home, all with the permission of my boss at the time. It was all on the up and up, no issues there. Now I would love to show you guys the axe that we're gonna be working on today, but I actually am recording this little clip right here, this intro clip, at the very end of the day, right before I go and sit down to edit this video, because I realized that this morning when I recorded the intro here, I didn't actually press the record button. And so the axe that we're gonna be working on today is the exact same as this one, so I have actually had two of them, which is super exciting because it is a Hults Bruk forged axe head. So these are made in Sweden, and they are a really good quality axe. I know that because I actually paid really good money for a couple of Hults Bruk forged axes. This is my little hatchet that you guys saw in yesterday's video. I always carry it around with me. I love it for backpacking. It's great to keep in the truck. Just all around a very good little hatchet. And then I have my actual like chopping axe, which is a 2-pound head, decently long handle. This one is a Hults Bruk head, and then it's sold or finished by Hultafors, which you can see the brand name there. Both of these are absolutely amazing axes. I love them. I've been using them for years. They're also very expensive. If I remember correctly, this one was about a $300 axe. This one, I believe, was somewhere around the $200 mark. Very expensive, but very good. Now, the axe head we're gonna be working with today is probably not up to the same standard as those ones that are my, my good expensive ones, because this is much more of a big box store style axe that Hultafors would make, so it'd be a little bit on the lower end, but it's still a very good quality axe. So we're just gonna jump into this project because it was pretty fun to do, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, so I grabbed 3 pieces out of that lumber stash up there. That's all the stuff that's like my thins that for, someday when I get into marquetry, I have a whole bunch of thins sitting up there. And a little bit of hickory that I just never thought I'd use again. And so out of these 3 options, the wider board here I think is my favorite because this one is solid hickory heartwood. Whereas these other 2 that are narrower but closer to the size that we actually need, they are solid sapwood. And so the interesting thing about making an axe handle is that when you look at the butt of an axe handle, you can see that you want the grain running straight through the handle in that direction. You don't want a perfectly quarter sawn piece where the grain would be running in the horizontal there. So you want it as straight and as long as possible. So this is always going to result in some kind of a flat sawn pattern. That's where you're going to get these larger cathedrals showing up in the grain. So ever since I got into woodworking, I've always wondered why you wouldn't want to use quarter quarter sawn material for something like an axe handle, but it's just purely because when the grain is in that flat orientation, you have the least amount of terminating grain, and it means that it's running as straight as possible up through the whole length of the handle here. And so even though I'm going to be doing a laminated handle, I still want to make sure that the grain is running as straight as possible. So you can see that these two sapwood pieces, these narrow ones, would be okay because the grain is running fairly straight through them. This one is a little bit more of an angle, but this one is pretty dang good. The grain is running fairly straight through it. Then on this wider one that's all heartwood, we have a little bit more of a challenge because you can see that the grain doesn't really run nice and straight anywhere through here. So the best area will probably be using about 2.5 inches from somewhere in around here. So we're not going to get perfectly straight grain running through. But again, because we're making a laminated handle, I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue to have, not perfectly straight grain. So all we need to do now is isolate the section that we need. So it should be a pretty simple process to take this piece of 4/4 hickory and turn it basically into a 5/4 laminated block. So that's what we're aiming for here, is right around 5/4, maybe just a little bit under that, so there's less material to have to grind off later. But yeah, that's what we are aiming for here. I'm rethinking my plans here real quick. So I've milled up our piece of hickory. It looks beautiful. It's a nice clean piece of hickory. We actually managed to get a fairly straight grain structure on the end here. It's not perfect. This is not what I would do for a really high-end axe if I was trying to make, but the fact that this is the first axe handle, this is fine. And it's going to be laminated, so that's not really all that important anyway. But I made the daring climb into my lumber pile to grab a piece of walnut, and I found this one that is exactly 2.5 inches wide. It's obviously a miscut piece from a different project because it's fully milled up, already all square in that. And it is just too beautiful to cut a small piece off of, laminate it in between, and just hide the walnut completely. I really don't want to do that. But what I'm thinking now is I'll take some material off of one side of this piece of hickory, just narrow it down. Then I'll take my piece of walnut here, mill it into two pieces that are 5/16 of an inch thick, or somewhere around there. Then I'll glue those to the outside of our hickory blank, and that way when we start carving into our handle, our high areas here, so like right around this top area here, and right around the actual bottom of the handle here, we'll have some walnut that'll actually be showing through, but we'll also get some face grain hickory showing through. So we're not just going to be seeing one edge showing all the way through. As we create this curvature on the front here, it'll transition from walnut into hickory. So it'll be, I think that'll give it just a super cool design. Again, I'm kind of just making this up as I go along. And funny enough, our walnut here actually has perfect grain structure for an axe handle, because you can see the grain is pretty much running all the way straight through there. Okay, so we now have a nice looking ice cream sandwich right there. That's the only thing I can think of at the moment that this looks like, which is making me really want an ice cream sandwich. But anyway, we're gonna set this aside and let it cure up till tomorrow. We've got good clamping pressure across the whole thing, just using the masking tape there. It's wound on there nice and tight, so it's pulling all these sections together really well. There's not going to be any air gaps, anything like that in there, hopefully. If there is, we can always fill them afterwards, but again, we want to make sure that glue up is as good as possible, which is why you saw me use the drum sander, because off the drum sander, we get these perfectly flat mating faces, and sanded 80 grit, they're a very grippy surface, so they suck up a lot of glue, glue and they will hold together really well, which is a lot better than what I can get out of my planer. Out of the planer, there's definitely going to be snipe on there, so the faces are not going to mate as nicely. You're going to have to do a lot of manual cleanup, so that is why I use the drum sander. Obviously, if you want to do this yourself and you don't have a drum sander, you just have to go through and sand the faces, clean them up a little bit more, spend some time to make sure that they're mating up nice and flat. So now we can move our attention over to the axe head. Now, luckily I restored that hand plane recently, otherwise I would really have no idea what I was doing here. But what I'm going to start by doing is putting a bunch of paint stripper on here and letting that eat away some of the paint. Then I'll come back and wipe it off. So I'm going to leave it for a good, probably 20-30 minutes so that the paint stripper can actually do its job, unlike I did on the hand plane where I just wiped it on and then tried to wipe it off, not realizing that's not how paint stripper works. Then once we have most of the paint stripped off here, I will throw this in that rust solution so that it eats away all the surface rust here. Then we can go through and actually start cleaning it up and grinding off some of the surfaces here because it is in pretty rough shape. We do have a lot of deep rusting in here, so we'll have to see what it looks like when we get out of that rust bath. Alright, so the paint stripper didn't do any better this time than it did on the hand plane. It did do a little bit better. It definitely softened up a little bit and removed some, but again, not nearly what you would expect. So this time I let it sit on there for about 25 minutes before I came back out and kind of put the old elbow grease into it to try and rub it off, and it got rid of some of it. We still have some areas where it was a little bit too thick. This is also where there was a sticker on, so I think I should have just recoated that area. That might get it off. The one thing I did read about working with paint stripper is that you generally want to do it a few times in order to get the paint out of there, but I think I'm just not going to worry too much about it. Okay, so that is the 80 grit sanding on the axe head here. Now this does not look like a good axe head. Personally speaking, I'm much more of a fan of the fresh off the forge style of axe heads, like that are on my other two axes. This style that is more on the silver side and more polished up is not as cool looking. But what I do like is in all the kind of the texture on the axe here, we've got this deep red paint and it actually looks pretty cool. And also in the stamped maker's mark here, we've got that really dark red paint in there. So it does kind of look cool in its own way. Now, I knew right from the get-go of this that I wasn't going to be able to get all the paint off this. Obviously, that would take completely polishing the surface here. And the only way to get rid of the paint from the maker's mark here would be to either completely get rid of it, grind it out, or to sandblast it. So realistically, the only way to get all the paint off this thing would be to sandblast it. And so the reason I ground this edge flat here is because we had some pretty good chips in it that, if I just went in and tried to normally sharpen this, we wouldn't be able to get through those chips. It would take a long time to get through those chips. So just by grinding that whole edge flat, now we can go back in and reestablish that edge with the file, and then when we go back into sharpen, we should actually be able to sharpen it nicely, and there won't be any chips or anything like that in it. So I think as it stands now, I'm going to end up spray painting the blade matte black, and then when we go and sharpen it, that'll reveal our nice shiny edge, and then the matte black spray paint will cover up all of these areas and that. And so that's the plan as it stands right now. I'm going to keep working on the axe head here and just see what I can achieve, and if the plan changes, I will let you guys know. So as it turns out, I also forgot to press record on both the spray painting and the outro that I recorded earlier too. So apparently it was just not a great day for me and my whole recording abilities, or at least for the parts that actually matter. The rest of it I seem to capture it just fine. But anyway, here's the axe head, since you guys didn't get to see it get spray painted, with this nice matte black coating on it. And so you can see here, we still have the whole maker's mark and everything all got highlighted up nicely. We did lose some texture and definition to that maker's mark, because not surprisingly enough, when you cram that much paint into a small space like that that's highly detailed, it's not really surprising that you're gonna lose some of that detail. But I still think it looks just as good, and that paint is going to get worn off as this thing gets used. And so I don't expect this axe head to stay perfectly black for the rest of its existence. That's not going to happen with any heavily used tool. But much like the red paint that was on here before, as the axe gets used, this black paint is just going to get ground into that steel, and it's going to stay kind of a permanently blackened color. So it's going to be just fine. It's going to do exactly what I want it to do. Again, it's going to show wear and tear a little bit, which is kind of a cool thing in my opinion. So when we actually go through to sharpen this, what we'll do is we'll start by redefining this bevel that we've cut in here now with the file, because the file can withstand paint and can be cleaned a little bit easier, because we don't ever want to get paint onto a sharpening stone. Then once we have that bevel reestablished, we can go back in with a whetstone or an axe sharpening stone, which is a little bit of a coarser stone that you can buy pretty cheap, and we'll just grind back in that nice edge and get it to a very sharp point. Again, an axe is not really a tool that you need to take to like a razor sharp point so you can actually like shave with it, but we just want to get this to a point where it splits wood nicely, and will be pretty easy to achieve. Even right now, just with what I put in there with the file, this would actually split wood just as it is. Now we're going to be coming back to this project in a couple days because I have to go to the market tomorrow, so I don't want to try and do all the work that we need to do this thing in that shorter span that I have tomorrow. Plus, as it stands right now, tomorrow is looking really busy because I found someone in Calgary that is currently cutting down a few ash trees, so I'm going to go try and pick up some of that wood, and I'm going to do that at some point tomorrow. I'm not sure how it's going to work around the whole market type thing, but I'm going to find a way to make it work. But anyway, we'll be coming back to this project in a couple of days, which means that our spray paint here should have plenty of time to cure up. Again, sitting in the shop here, I keep the shop at around 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, so the spray paint should cure up nice and quickly. So I hope you guys are enjoying this project so far. It's definitely going to be an interesting one. I'm really excited to start working on that axe handle, get it all fitted up, and see how this thing looks and how well it works once it's all done and put together. So as always, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.